It's a brand new week. Cactus League play is winding down. 10 more days until opening day. It's right around the corner. We got all your headlines next on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. This is Locked On Brewers, along with Vinny Rottino. I'm Dominic Catronio. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season with odds, props, and lines more than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. He's an ex-big leaguer turned broadcaster. I'm a broadcaster turned podcaster, giving you all the daily news for your Milwaukee Brewers. Again, just 10 days away from opening day. Cactus League play continues. Yesterday was the lone off day of the circuit down in Arizona, and it's now a fast and furious sprint to the finish before April 7th down at Wrigley. A lot to get to this weekend, Vinny, and a big week ahead as far as lining up the pitching staff for what could be for opening day. We're going to talk about Mark Attanasio's comments as well and just kind of recap the last few days of camp down here.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming up right on our heels, and opening day at Wrigley. Can't think of a better way to open the season. Just hang a couple L's on the Cubs. But it's looking like the Brewers can certainly do that and then some with what they're showing in spring training so far. I mean, you got some guys that are really raking. You got some guys that are really showing really quality at-bats. And then the arms look ready. So I am excited for this thing to kick off, and I'm excited for a bunch of L's against the Cubs. I know we're a ways away yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
There's still 19 games to play head-to-head with those guys other than the first few to open the season. And, of course, we talk about this all the time, but we're going to talk a little bit about rosters in today's episode. But it's a great reminder. We talked about it, I think, on Thursday, that, look, the roster you break camp with is almost never the roster you finish with. And it's last year is a great example of that. I mean, with Arcia and Adames, and then you've got Travis Shaw and Rowdy Tellez. It's just so much is going to happen, and it's nice to have that something to look forward to, an opening day roster, but folks in the organization know this is just the beginning. It is a marathon and is just on the starting line right now.
Yeah, last year, I think the guys that are going to be starting on opening day from last year to this year, I think there's two of them. Am I right with that? So Lo Cain didn't even start last year. It's Colton Wong and Omar Narvaez. I believe those are the only two guys. I don't think Christian Yelich.
Urias was the starting shortstop, though.
That's right.
Yelich was the starting left fielder.
That's right. Okay, so
Lo Cain did play center. Yeah.
I thought Lo Cain was on the shelf to start, but okay.
That was a weekend.
I thought he was. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anyway, it was a good thought. But yes, it's a different team from what you start with to what you finish with. And again, I do think with the team that they're putting out there to start the season this year, you're probably going to see similar names to end the year with this club, just because they are kind of guys that it feels like they're committed to, and guys that are really productive players. So I'm excited for this group to I don't know, 100 wins, you think?
Whoa, tap the brakes on that number, buddy.
Getting ahead of myself a little bit.
But
95
wins is
last
so hard
year,
to win.
It's true, but 95 last year, right? In an awful first 6 weeks. Pretty, I mean, just a very mediocre first 6 weeks. Believe it or not, they were under 500 when they acquired Willie Adames. They were 2 or 3 games under 500. So
they were 21 and 23.
Yeah. So there you go, Dom. I mean, it's not out of reach.
Just a reminder, I mean, the two of the best teams last year, the Dodgers and the Giants, they won 107 and 106 games respectively, and it took every single win possible, really, for them to get to that total. I mean, it is so hard to win 106, 107 games. I mean, projected right now, according to FanGraphs, the Brewers are projected at 88 wins. So it's probably going to be more than that if you ask me. But 100's a big ask, and you shouldn't be setting a bar that high. Sure, you'd love to, but I mean, you can win a World Series winning 81 games. I mean,
hey, the Braves
all you got to do is get in.
Right? So. Yeah, and with 12 teams in this year too, right? So, I mean, the Braves did that. They snuck in and then ended up winning the World Series. So, But I think they're capable. I'm not saying it's official that that's my call, that it's a 100-win team. I'm not saying that. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm saying it's
You put the
not
words
out
in
of
your
the
own
realm.
mouth.
I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. That's what I'm saying, because this
All
is
right,
a really good group. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Well, let's talk about the man that signs the checks, Mark Attanasio. He actually spoke to the media this past weekend out in American Family Fields of Phoenix. And a good reminder that Mark was on the executive committee for the owners that helped represent Major League Baseball during the lockout. Now, before you light your pitchforks and light your torches and pitchforks and go running like, wait, Mark Attanasio is the reason why we had a lockout? No. He's just on the board with other members, just like, Andrew Miller and Max Scherzer were leaders of the executive board for Major League Baseball Players Association. So he was right in the middle of it. He was pretty coy to the reporters over the weekend, just saying, look, I'm just so glad it's over. Those are grueling days. And he had a meeting with the players basically saying it is on us, as in us being the owners, to create a better environment as far as negotiations. We can't have a spat every 5 years, and that's on us, and we are going to try to be better. Word is that was very well received in the clubhouse, and a lot of folks want to come after Mark for not spending enough. And a reminder that baseball economics are not as simple as one guy signs a check. He's the majority principal owner. He doesn't own the entire team, but he is the majority owner. He is the face of the ownership group. So it's not just one guy's income that is supplying everything for the team. But let's remind everybody, too, this is projected to be the largest opening day roster in ever for the Brewers, as far as payroll goes. And then they still, Mark has said this weekend, they want to have financial flexibilities that if they can and will need to go make a move at some point this year, they have the flexibility to do it. Did you take anything overarching away from his comments this weekend?
No, I like that. Puts it into perspective that they're always, and I like that comment that he made about, like, look, you gotta be prepared to add if you want to be prepared to win the World Series, and they are. I think they know. I think Mark Attanasio knows that this year and then next year is as good a chance as anybody ever in the game to win the World Series, right? So they have the group to do it, and so they're going to. I love the fact that he kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, we can add expensive players. And maybe even take on some salary. Whatever the case, they're flexible enough to do so, and I think that's what fans have to definitely understand. I mean, the TV deals in Milwaukee are probably not as good as the TV deals in LA for the Dodgers. I mean, they're not, right? So I mean, they are a little bit. It's a different market. It's certainly a different market, even though we are the best fans in the game, and I believe that, right? I truly do believe that. It's just not as big. It's quite a bit smaller, actually.
They're going to be over $120 million to opening day payroll, and some folks think that every owner is liquid with hundreds of millions of dollars and billions sitting in the bank. That's just not the case. And I know fans are frustrated with saying, oh, get over $150 million, go spend and go get these guys. But it's just not that simple. It's just truly not throw money at a problem and it will be fixed. I know folks look at what the Dodgers do and look what the Yankees do and look what the Mets do. It's just not the same. And you made a great point about the TV deal, and that's a huge deal of revenue for most ownership groups. Now, the fans are great, and we appreciate every single one of them. But let's also look at and address the elephant in the room. Milwaukee is a little bit smaller than Los Angeles and New York City. But you give credit to Mark and you give credit to David Stearns for getting creative, for understanding what they have to do in order to be competitive. They have made the playoffs for 4 consecutive years for the first time in franchise history. And I think that's something certainly to be proud of.
Exactly. I mean, as good of a job that Doug Melvin did do, and he did a phenomenal job, and he built a lot of the pieces that were in place and a lot of the farm system that were in place when David Stearns took over. So taking nothing away from Doug Melvin, David Stearns has gotten really creative, and his in-season moves have been absolutely brilliant in terms of, I mean, just look at Willy Adames, right? And so some of these moves that he has made have been brilliant and have allowed them to really be a team that's in the conversation this year and last of being the best team in the league. They certainly were in that conversation. So look for more of that to come here in the next couple of seasons, but let's focus on a a 2022 World Series. Are we World Series or bust this year, or what?
I wouldn't say or bust, but it's certainly actually within reach. There's always teams that we want to win the World Series, but there's usually only a handful at most that can legitimately win the World Series. I mean, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Mets, and you guys are certainly, the Brewers are certainly chances to, legitimate chances to win a World Series. In the American League side, I mean, it's pretty wide open right now, but I'd look at the Chicago White Sox and I'd look at the Tampa Bay Rays to have a legitimate chance. So 6 or 7 teams probably to have a chance, and then the Toronto Blue Jays too. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. But I want to read this quote, and we'll move on after this, from Mark Attanasio about what he said, is saying that, look, when he was buying the team 18 years ago, you looked at the teams that got into trouble, and it's teams that had been spending and then had to pull back. And so one of my goals was to always compete. We set out on that 18 seasons ago, and we've really always competed. David had 1 year of a rebuild. Doug Melvin never wanted to rebuild because he told me you never know what you could build it back up. It's one thing if you have injuries or things like that are out of your control, but if you overspend and then you have to cut back because of that, it's very difficult. So they're being prudent, they're being smart with their money, and picking and choosing the right moments to go after. Look, they re-signed Christian Yelich to an extension, a record the most money. There is a track record being built as far as spending prominently and when it's supposed to be spent.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting whether or not he's going to extend one or two of these really high octane starters, and we'll see what happens with Josh Hader as well. So we'd love to keep all of them, but it's just not in the realm of possibility. So it'll be interesting to see how big that payroll gets to here in the coming years.
It'll be great. All right, so let's move on with some headlines for the rest of camp. Before we do that, remind you that after months of playing, of course, college basketball is ready to determine the top teams. Here we are at the Final Four and this year's national champion coming this week. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and info for all the latest odds, contests, and player props. You name it, BetOnline.net has it. They are also the best spot for all your latest sports developments, podcasts, and reviews of all the leagues. They've got MLB future odds up there right now. Go click around and check it out. Not just basketball. They've also got live betting and Vegas casino games on there too. And you can use your mobile device today to learn more about all the trends and get in on the action. There's some great MLB stuff going on there too. So bet online where the game starts. Some headlines around camp. I mean, offensively, if we're going to start there, I think it starts with two guys that are jumping off the page right now as far as what they've done so far at camp. That is Tyrone Taylor and Keston Hiura, and Andrew McCutchen shortly behind that to make it 3 guys. Let's start with Tyrone, because we spent a lot of the offseason talking about Tyrone being the 4th outfielder, your backup center fielder, and then they go and get Andrew McCutchen. You got to wonder how he reacts. Well, so far, Tyrone in camp is 7 for 15 with a double and 3 homers. So I think he's doing all right.
Yeah, Tyrone Taylor, right? I mean, he has gone from looking like an NFL, I would say punter, maybe not kicker, but punter. That's what he looked like a couple years ago. Then he puts on 15 pounds. Now he looks like an NFL safety, and he's got that really short, handsy swing. I love it. He's got a really good idea of the strike zone. He refuses to strike out. He's just building off of last season. Obviously, he's having a great spring. We're looking for him to obviously carry that into the season. I think he will. I mean, it's impressive what he's been able to do. I think that next step would be to really have him understand and really learn how to, I'm not saying he's overmatched by righties. I'm saying that right-handed slider at times he was just chasing is a little bit of a pitch that gave him trouble, but he's showing that he can handle both-handed pitchers. Hopefully he gets a chance to play every day. The guy deserves it. Obviously, that means something would have to happen to one of the 3-4 starters, including the DH. But that's not what I want to see, obviously. But this kid is productive. Maybe they force his hand at some point and just move him all around, because he is being very, very productive. 30-something RBIs and only 100 and a handful of at-bats last year, 200 maybe. So it was an impressive season. Look for him to continue that. And then also we'll see if he can really man center field if something were to happen to Locaine, because he's that next guy up.
271 plate appearances and 43 runs batted in last season for Tyrone Taylor.
Wow,
but then, what were you saying?
Oh, that's even more impressive. Yeah. I thought I was looking at, I don't know what I was looking at.
So
He had a lot
Keston
more
here
at bats.
also, we have to talk about Keston because 3 homers now. A couple of them have gone opposite field. I think what's also important to note too is that he's being a lot more selective. It doesn't necessarily mean he's drawing more walks, but he's been working counts. I mean, think about it. Last year in June, we were seeing Keston go strike one, strike two, swing and a miss, strike three, see ya, or swing and a miss, strike one, pop up on the second pitch. He was just so pressing, so aggressive. He looks a lot more comfortable on the plate. His swing is very smooth. We talked about it a lot last week as well, but he's someone we have to talk about that. Look, it's obviously a right-handed heavy lineup, but Keston Hiura was supposed to be the DH, and that's why they went out and got Andrew McCutchen as insurance in case Hiura wasn't back. And now it looks like both of them are back because even McCutchen's got 2 homers this spring now.
Yeah, both of these guys look really, really good. They're going to have a good problem, right? They're going to have to try and find at-bats for all these dudes. And Keston, I mean, yeah, it looks, and we talked about it, we broke it down with his swing last time, but the ability to really just, like you said, smooth out that swing, he was, and Rock said it yesterday on the broadcast, it looked like he was using way too much body in that move to and through the baseball. Now it looks a little bit more handsy. Obviously that leg kick is much more simplified. So he's just going right to the leg kick and using his hands. That's what it looks like. And it's incredible. And I said it, he has as much pop as anybody in the game. That's including a guy like Giancarlo Stanton to the opposite field. And it's super impressive what he's been able to do with some of these home runs that he's hit so far this spring to the opposite field. And he hit one to center as well. So, man, I mean, it's going to be a good problem to have. How do they find at-bats for all these guys, including Kutch?
So Keston is 6 for 13 so far in camp with 3 homers and a double. Andrew McCutchen hit 2 homers over the weekend. He is 5 for 10 at the plate. He even told reporters, "I'm feeling a lot better than I did last year." There were days that his knees would flare up last season, aside from the time he actually spent, away and taking days off, but he would play through some injury and through some pain while still coming back from his ACL. He feels 100% healthy. He feels strong. He feels young again, according to his own words, which to the rest of the National League, that's quite something to say because everyone else had a chance at this guy too. It's the Brewers were the ones that landed them. So kudos to the ones that figured out that there is potential for him to maybe be something of use for this team, even though the outfield seems pretty crowded. It's a good problem, like you said, in order to have as many good bats as you can is never something you're going to turn down. As far as shifting away from those outfielders, guys, quick update. It sounds like Jace Peterson is going to be the opening day third baseman, given Luis Urias still recovering from his left quad strain. It doesn't sound like he will be ready for opening day. Craig Counsell has left a sliver of the door open. It's not really going to happen, it sounds like. But again, I'd rather have 140 games of Urias that are healthy as opposed to trying to force 160 with a hurt quad.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, these soft tissue injuries, especially we talked about how cold it's going to be at the beginning of this season. Let's get this thing right. You don't want this to be nagging. As a guy, I started pulling muscles at the end of my career, and it is not fun. So once you do it, you better get that thing right. Otherwise, it will nag you all season long. You're not going to feel right. And I think that's the right move. And Jace Peterson's certainly ready. Defensively, he looks great at third base. He made a play on the run yesterday that it was bang, bang. I thought he was out. I think it was it Billy Hamilton? I'm not sure who hit it actually, but I thought it was out. And this is a very tough play. He makes it look like he's been playing over there every single day for his entire career. So this is the kind of thing that Jace Peterson brings you. He brings you defensive reliability as well as that really, really quality at bat every single time and the ability to leave the yard as well. So I think he's going to slide in there and step in for Luis very nicely.
And then you have to figure out what's going to happen at shortstop if you need a backup shortstop. It sounds like as of now, they'll survive with Mike Brasso for a few games if necessary. But then if it seems like in the event something happened to Willy Adames, that they would really have to be scrambling to figure out what they would do next as far as who would be the backup shortstop. But that's for another time. Let's, not even speak that into existence per se.
Right.
But let's get ready to switch over to the pitching before we wrap up this Monday episode. Before we do that, tell you about Built Bar, of course. Have you tried these puffs? These are an awesome little protein-infused marshmallow, and they're still great for you. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they have amazing flavors just for the puffs. They've got churro flavor, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. And if the puffs aren't your thing, of course, our friends at Built Bar have got you covered with the best protein bars in the game. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. You compare that to like a candy bar, 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar. Look, a Built Bar might taste better than a candy bar, and it's actually good for you as well. We got a promo code if you want to try it out. Built.com, BUILT.com. And you can use our promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order at Built.com. So pitching-wise, we talked about Corbin Burns' start last week. We've also talked about Brandon Woodruff's start. Now, when you look at the stat line, you may panic like, oh my goodness, what happened with these guys? But it's spring training. It's a hitter-friendly environment. And then you may say, well, Dom, weren't you just praising the hitters on your team? It just doesn't – it's not that simple, to say the least. But Corbin Burns is actually going to pitch tonight, or today, I should say, at home, American Family Fields of Phoenix, taking on the Giants. And it's a rematch with Brandon Webb, by the way, too. So that'll be fun to see him coming down here from Scottsdale. But Burns gets the ball today. He still looked now. He's still got 6 strikeouts against the Reds. But what would you look for Corbin in this afternoon?
Yeah, it's just continue to do what he's been doing. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything different. He gets in trouble every once in a while where he lays one in there right down the middle. And that's what we saw from him in 2019, especially against left-handed hitters. That cutter would kind of leak over the middle and guys would put good swings on it. That was few and far between last year, right? I mean, he showed the ability to command 5 pitches to both sides of the plate. And so I would just say, just continue to look for that command to be honed in and sharpen up a little bit. And I think Burns will be obviously more than fine.
And then on Tuesday, tomorrow, Brandon Woodruff will get his next start. He will going up against the Guardians over in Goodyear against Cal Quantrill. And then on Wednesday, it hasn't been announced, but it sounds like that would be the next day for, say, Aaron Ashby to appear, or maybe even on tomorrow on Tuesday, or furthermore, say Adrian Hauser could pitch that day as well. But it's all still to be figured out. But as things line up, if you had to guess right now, and if you were correct counsel, who would you be handing the ball to on opening day?
I mean, you got to give it to Burns, right? I mean, he won the Cy Young. I don't think there will be much of a controversy with that. And Burns had the ball game 1 of the playoffs as well. So I think that probably answers your question. The fact that he gave it to Burns over Woodruff for game 1 against the Braves last year in the NLDS. So look for Burns. Again, I think Woodruff would be totally fine with it also. How about you?
Because I agree, because as it stands right now, Burns pitches today. He would next pitch on Saturday on 5 days rest. And then 5 days after that is April 7th against the Cubs. So it sounds like that's where it's headed right now. Council has not announced that yet, but I agree. It should be Corbin Burns, the reigning Cy Young winner, have Woodruff go second. And then I wonder if you want to split up, if Ashby's going to make a start, if you split up the lefties after Peralta, and then if you go with, say, if you go Lauer, then Hauser, and then Ashby if he needs to make a start. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm sure they've already had conversations about this, and how many starts Ashby's going to get in the first month, we don't know. But it sounds more and more like he will be getting a handful of starts, plenty this season, but will be spending the majority of the year in the bullpen. And speaking of the bullpen, I was calling the game for the Brewers and the A's on Friday, and Devin Williams came into the game over in Mesa, and I got to see the cutter in action against the A's. And it's not a perfect pitch yet, but it breaks opposite his changeup, and he struck out the side on, I think, 12 pitches. So he threw it 5 or 6 times, if I remember correctly. A lot more changeups, a couple of swings and misses. It's just it's scary when the best get better, and actually seeing it, from behind home plate unobstructed. It was a scary, scary looking pitch.
Yeah, it's scary for opposing hitters for sure. And now I just want to say how difficult that has to be. I remember catching guys in the minor leagues and obviously in the big leagues a little bit as well that could really only execute, one or the other, right? So a really good changeup, or if they had a really good changeup, then it's hard to really get around that ball and get a cutter slider thing going and have that sharpness to it. And it's impressive that Devin Williams is working on that and showing the ability to do that. And again, it like you said, especially when he's up into into the 97s and 96s, 98 range. Now all of a sudden hitters have to contend with two different off-speed pitches. One that's one of the best changeups of all time. Let's just call it what it is. It really is. And then now something going the other way. So it is going to be very difficult, especially now, again, on left-handed hitters as well. He's got that changeup that goes away from him, but all of a sudden he's got that cutter to break their bat and to kind of get in on their hands. So multiple weapons, like you said, the best just getting better. And I love how the Brewers pitching staff, they're all just willing to try some of this stuff. And they know that this could all, make them better. And I love that about this group, and it's just going to make them even more formidable.
And also just a quick checkup on Josh Hader, by the way. He's appeared in 2 games so far this spring. He's faced 6 batters. He struck out all 6 batters. Yeah, I think he's ready. He's ready.
The game is over. I mean, you could almost say the game's over. The game's for sure over after the 8th. I'm that confident in Josh Hader. Devin Williams, man, when he is going well, the game's over after the 7th. So obviously they have box for the 7th and a number of different guys that they can deploy in the middle of the innings there when the starters hand the ball off. So this pitching staff is just so scary good.
Yes. I mean, Luis Perdomo has shown his head as far as maybe being a candidate for one of the open bullpen spots. Also, Trevor Gott, reminder, he was acquired this past offseason. Trevor Gott can throw hard. He's got a little bit of a cut as well. Another guy that's learning a cutter. It's something to keep in mind. I mean, Gott has thrown 3 innings so far this spring. He's allowed 1 run, but he struck out 5. He hasn't walked anybody either. So Gott's certainly making a great impression with his new club. You don't really lock down bullpen roles until the final week of camp anyway. But I think those are the 2 names to keep an eye on to see with a 28-man roster breaking camp. So you will counsel go with 14 pitchers, or we will even go with 15 pitchers. Who knows? But those 2 guys are certainly on my radar that could be breaking camp on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I think I just get the feel that they probably will go with 15. Just because it is American League rules now, and so you don't necessarily need it that deep of a bench on the position player side. I mean, you would have carried a Daniel Vogelback in the past for that pinch hit ability coming off the bench. So I do see a number of different names that are probably, it's going to be like a tryout, right? In April to see the hot hand is going to stay on the team in spring, or I'm sorry, in April and then into May. So it'll be some interesting battles there once that all shakes out.
All right. So that's going to wrap up our episode here on this beautiful Monday, wherever you may be listening. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back to 5 days a week again as we get closer and closer to opening day. Vinny, I mean, we're 10 days away, which is shocking to say. But a quick peek at the schedule this week, as the Brewers are again at home today against the Giants. Corbin Burns will be on the mound, and that will be on Bally Sports Wisconsin at 3:10 Central Time. And then on the road for back-to-back games here in Phoenix, they'll be going to the Guardians. They'll be going to the Padres on Tuesday and Wednesday, 3:05 and 3:10 respectively. And then back at American Family Fields of Phoenix on Thursday against the Angels. And Lorenzo Cain bobblehead will be given away that day, and a Robin Yount bobblehead given away today. So some fun stuff for the first 1,000 fans here at American Family Fields of Phoenix.
Definitely. And I just wanted to point out that 10-day forecast right now. In Racine, Wisconsin, it's supposed to be low of 32 on the 12th. So, hopefully, I don't know.
We actually do have a chance of rain on Tuesday, by the way. We actually will finally have some sort of weather roll in. It was 91 degrees today. Tomorrow will be more of the same, 94 degrees. But then we'll have a little bit of a cold front move in, then right back up to the 80s. No big deal. Sunshine, lollipops.
It's going to be cold here for opening day and in Chicago as well. So
I come back on April 6th, so we can turn up the heat when I come back, okay? That would be much appreciated. He is Vinny. I am Dom. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of Locked On Brewers. Until then, keep on swinging.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.